Hi all. So in this PPT, let us learn something about on the evidence of laws of inheritance. So the concept of inheritance that is embedded deeply in the fabric of life itself has intrigued scientists, thinkers, and the curious minds for more than centuries. And it is the mechanism by which the traits are passed from one generation to the next and shaping the remarkable diversity and continuity of the life on our planet. From Gregor's Mendel Gregor's Mendel pioneering work with pea plants in the 19th century to the cutting edge advancements in genomics today, the study of the laws of inheritance has been an essential cornerstone of biology. So, Gregor Mendel, so he is the one who is known as for the father of modern genetics. So, you can briefly mention his in experiments with pea plants and highlight the pioneering nature of his work in the mid of the 19th century. So, he served as the father of the modern genetic one. So, this Mendel's first law, that is the law of segregation. Mendel's law of segregation is a fundamental principle in genetics, and it is like a formulated based on Mendel's experiment with pea plants in the mid of 19th century. This law states that during the formation of the gametes, that is the sperm and the egg cell, the two gene variants for a specific trait will segregate or separate from each other. So this each gamete will carry only one allele for each trait. This was the law of segregation. In second law, he stated the law of independent assortment. So, independent assortment is another fundamental principle in the genetics that is derived from his experiments with the help of the pea plants. So, this law applies to genes that are located on different chromosome or the genes that are far apart on the same chromosome. So it states that the alleles for a different traits or the different form, they will segregate independently of each other during the formation of the gametes. So in other words, we can also state that in inheritance of one trait does not influence the inheritance of the another trait, and the assortment of alleles from one trait is independent of the assortment of alleles for the another trait. So this is how what he had stated in the second law, that is the law of independent assortment. And Homos Hunt Morgan and the fruit flies. So he was like Thomas Hunt Morgan. He was an American genetist. He conducted the groundbreaking research in genetics. So he chose the fruit fly Drosophila melanogaster as his model organism for genetic studies due to its shorter lifespan, rapid reproduction, and large number of offspring. Morgan discovered the concept of sex linked inheritance, showing that certain traits in fruit flies were inherited differently in males and the females. And Morgan and his colleagues developed gene mapping techniques using fruit flies by creating the first genetic maps that showed the relative positions of the genes on the chromosome. And molecular evidence, that is DNA as the genetic material. So like how they created molecular evidence is the first historical debate was centered on the identity of the genetic material, whether it was DNA or proteins. Then by Griffith's transformation in 1928, heat killed bacteria transferred genetic traits suggesting a hereditary molecule. And in 1944, Avery, McLeod, and McCarthy, only DNA transferred non virulent bacteria confirming DNA's role in genetic transfer was found out. And Hershey and Chase in 1952, the radioactive labeling showed that DNA, not proteins, carrying genetic information during the viral infection. And in Chargav's rules, consistent base pairing patterns, ATCG pattern type of hinted as DNA's role in encoding the genetic information. So these are the various molecular evidences that was found out using DNA as a genetic material. And modern genetic research techniques, like they are using many modern techniques by using DNA for genetic purposes, like DNA sequencing and CRISPR, Cas9 gene editing, genome wide association studies, and next generation sequencing. So, these are all the various modern research genetic techniques that have been adopted. And genetic variation and the mutation. So, what do we know about the genetic variation? So, nothing but the genetic variation refers to the differences in the DNA sequences among the individuals within a prescribed population. It is essential for evolution and adaptation as it will provide the raw material upon which the natural selection will act. Types of mutations are like mutation itself, we know, are changes in the DNA sequences. We call it as a mutation. Point mutation will involve single base changes such as substitutions, insertions, and deletions. Chromosomal mutations will affect larger segments of DNA, like including duplications, deletions, inversions, and the translocation. So, what are all the causes of mutations? They can arise spontaneously during DNA replication or due to external factors like radiation, chemicals, or some use of mutagenic agents. Spontaneous mutations are a part of normal genetic variation in the population, and main impact of this mutation have many varying effects from being natural or beneficial or even harmful effects. Harmful mutations will cause some genetic disorders or contribute to even diseases like cancer. Thank you.